Hi, my name is Hannah. Welcome to my channel, Savage Reads. I have read some books in the past week that I am very excited to talk about, so let's just jump into those. So this first book was a recommendation from the channel Bask in the Story, so I will make sure to link that down below. And I picked up Entangled Life, How Fungi Make Our World, Change Our Minds, and Shape Our Futures by Merlin Sheldrake. When you think about groups of life, you think of plants, animals, humans, you think of these groups, but it's very easy to overlook this large group of fungi. And I think that this book was very interesting in just opening my eyes to how many things there are going on in the world that I don't have any idea about. And so that was very interesting. It talks about all sorts of cool fungi, cool tech that's being made, medicines that are being developed, things that we're figuring out, and also what we just don't understand about how fungi work. So this was very interesting that way. I think at points it did get a little bit dry and a little bit repetitive. So I probably wouldn't say 5 stars, everyone should read this, but I think it definitely gives you something to start with on the subject. The author has a PhD in tropical ecology, and so he has done a lot of his own personal study on underground fungal networks, and not only focuses on that, but talks about other things having to do with different fungi. So honestly, very interesting. I do recommend. Just be aware there's probably a couple things that didn't we already go over this? I'm a little bit bored, but I'm still glad that I made it through. Now, Scott at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot recommended the book In Memoriam by Alice Wynne. I picked this up and I couldn't put it down. Basically, this is a World War I story and following 2 young men who fall in love. So we have a love story and a war story where I think Alice Wynne did a very good job, but also not enjoyable for me, is she was very good at depicting what life would have been like in the trenches, and it just felt so long and drawn out and painful to get through. And I mean, I think that's intentional because you're supposed to be feeling what these characters are going through. And so I thought that that was somewhat well done. I do kind of think that the author was giving us a little of that, and now what else can I throw in to this? By the end, I'm like, no, don't you dare. I can't do one more thing. Like, let's stop. Because any situation that could happen, she's gonna put in there. And it's not to say that horrible things don't happen in war and bad decisions haven't been made and people have been in wrong places at wrong times or all those kinds of things, but all of it happening to the same people starts to feel maybe a little excessive sometimes. But other than that, it was pretty good. It had a believable love story as well as a horrible slog through war. So if you are interested in that kind of book, I think you would really like it. I think it was well done. There were just moments when I was like, nuh-uh, you're done, Alice Wynne, stop it. And but other than that, I really did enjoy this book. I have heard many people talk about this book, but it first ended up on my list because of Olive over at A Book Olive, so I will link her channel down below, and I picked up Trust by Hernan Diaz. And I can honestly say I have never read a book that has quite this format. I didn't quite know what to make of it at first. So this whole book is a novel, but it starts out with a novel within the novel, and then a personal autobiography that's almost a rebuttal to the novel, and then it's a personal memoir about writing the autobiography that was responding to the novel, and then it's personal journals of the wife that was mentioned in the previous stories. And so honestly, it took me a minute to even figure out what is happening here. The novel that's at the beginning is a fictionalized account of a finance tycoon and his wife and how they profited off of the stock market crash. You are really getting the story from many perspectives and peeling back these different layers. I think you can, as you go through the book, you really start peeling back the layers of who was the tycoon's wife and what is the reality there. And you can also peel back what is ethical in finance. You can look at some of the morality behind the financial decisions that the characters make. You can think about their political points. You can think about all these things, but really what it mostly made me think of is how stories are told and how, depending on who is telling the story, you get to know the characters in such different ways, and really looking at, how do you get your information and how are you learning about things and what lens are you looking at things through, I thought was really interesting. Now, story-wise, there was something kind of basic about it, but I feel like it makes up for that with a very interesting form. And so overall, I ended up thinking it was really good. This just felt like a book that was full of great things for maybe a book club discussion, because there were really things that you could talk about and try to understand from the different perspectives that were shown and why they would be shown in that way and what the goal was. And I thought that there were just so many little things. So overall, I'm so glad I picked this one up. This one ends up being like a 5-star read for me. Were there things that maybe weren't perfect? Yeah, but it ends up being 5 stars in that I really, really liked it, and I do recommend it to everyone because it is something that is different than what I usually would read. And I haven't read a book that has had this kind of format, and I thought that it could lead to such interesting thoughts and discussions. So highly recommend this book. Definitely glad that I picked it up. Now, this next book was a recommendation from the channel Books with Tofu Kado, and I will make sure to link her channel down below. And I picked up Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates. Now, this is your horror, thriller, murder mystery. And we are following our main character who is going off to a wonderful, exclusive mountain retreat with her boyfriend. So they are going up into the mountains, and a large snowstorm. And a big snowstorm comes in, and they are forced to take refuge in a small cabin nearby. And soon people start ending up dead. And so we're having this very Agatha Christie and then there were none kind of thing. We have 8 or 9 strangers trapped together in a house, and one by one, the characters are getting picked off and we have to solve the mystery, right? So it can be gruesome because people are getting murdered, and it can be scary because of the suspense. And this book built up so much suspense over all this time because you have to know who the killer is. And is this formula a little bit basic horror movie tropes? Yes, absolutely. But you know what? It's all those basic tropes done pretty well. There were great twists and turns. There were really interesting characters. It all came together. There was scary elements without being gratuitously so. It just worked. Now, is this anything that I'm going to say, wow, what a groundbreaking book, a concept never heard of, it's really introduced something new? No, but this is a very, very solid murder, mystery, thriller, group of people, who's the killer, exactly what you would want from something like this. If this is a premise that you find intriguing, you're not going to be disappointed. If you like this kind of movie or book, I don't think you would be disappointed. It had all the right elements to give you a scary thriller, horror kind of mystery time. And it was great trying to make all the guesses along with the character, see what's going on, see why they're there, see what's happening. I had a fun time. So, proceed with caution. If you don't love books about murder, this isn't for you. But if you like a horror thriller type book every once in a while, this is a very solid pick. And that is what I have read the past week or so. If you have read any of these books, let me know what you think in the comments down below, or give me a good book recommendation. I can always add more to my to-be-read list. And thank you for watching. I will see you all on the next one.